Welcome to the first ever little collab here, live stream MLB style with BurrOaks77. We've been waiting for some MLB, man. I know you've been waiting on me in the NBA Finals, to that poo-poo NBA Finals to finally end. But how you doing today, brother?
Man, I'm good. I would like to see a little bit more out of Portugal in the first half here. My sneaking suspicion was that, much like the NBA, there is only one ball to share, and there's a lot of mouths to feed here on Portugal. I thought Czech did a really nice job here in the first half. I wouldn't say they're quite parking the bus. They're sitting in a low block, and they're defending well, and they're giving Portugal some problems here. It's a little bit more of a cagey game. I've been heavy into Euros. I've been doing Euros streams every morning. So a little skinny 2-game slate today for Euros, which is perfect so that we could jump on and do some baseball content now that the NBA is over. Yep. I got Euros and Copa America, but it fits really nicely into the summer schedule now that our kind of primary gigs are up,
Yeah, for sure. And I don't really compliment baseball on their scheduling ever, but they got a lot of games today on a pretty dead day otherwise for a lot of American betting fans. So I think we've got a good amount to go through. And luckily for this stream and the time that we started, we don't have very many early games. So we're going to get some normal first pitches here, I believe like 6:15 on the East Coast, 6:30 around that time. So there'll be plenty to look at. We've got a couple plays each. Way we're going to roll this is pretty much what you've seen here from both of our live shows that we've been putting up recently. We're going to go through a couple of the bets that we already have. Those are scrolling on the bottom line as well. We're going to keep those up so that when new people jump in, as you guys keep flooding in, we'll have that already rolling for you so you can check it out. But also want you to jump into the comments. Let us know what you guys want to look at. That's going to help lead a little bit of the discussion there towards the end. I know we got some leans we also want to look at, and maybe we can see if we feel like making a play by the time we're done with the show today. But definitely, like I said, make sure to jump in, subscribe to both the pages if you would. It's very helpful, and liking the video goes a long way. So much appreciated. Hopefully we're able to learn some people about some baseball stuff here and maybe get some good angles and looks from the chat as well. So you want to kick it off, man? I know you got your notes ready to go, and let us know what your first play is for today.
Yeah. I definitely spelled Cincinnati wrong. Yeah, sorry. Look, I like Lodolo today. He's pitching against Pittsburgh, who Pittsburgh has a season-long K rate of 25%. At home, it's a little shade under that. It's 24.2%. Versus left-handed pitching this season, it's 25.2%, so kind of right in line with their season-long K numbers. And then over the last 30 days, their left-handed pitching jumps up about 1.5% to 26.5%. And then over the last 30 days at home versus lefties, it jumps up a little bit more to a 26.8% K rate. And the point here is just Pittsburgh's got a lot of batters that strike out pretty consistently. So, minus the splits and stuff like that, I just think Lodolo is kind of finding his groove after a rough start to this season. He's been throwing really well in his last 2 games. I think he's turned a bit of a corner here, and will make a strong finish to the season. So if we take a look at Lodolo's numbers, you can see that he's been kind of capped out at this 6 strikeouts mark up until, and I watched him throw both of these games. I'm a big baseball fan. I watch a ton of baseball. That's what I do with most of my evenings. So when the Cubs came to town, I thought that they were going to be able to beat Lodolo up a little bit, but they put out kind of a trashy lineup. And I ended up getting away from his under there. He cleared his number. He got to 7 Ks. And then he went out and he threw incredibly well against a really K-adverse Cleveland team and racked up 6 strikeouts there. So the other thing I want to mention is that Lodolo has been pitching better on the road this season. If we extend it out, he did have some struggles towards the back half of last year's season, but he still has been pitching better on the road. And then if we get rid of this home away filter, you can see that in both games he's faced Pittsburgh, he's completely dusted them for 11 Ks and 9 Ks. So I think we're getting a really advantageous price on Lodolo, who hasn't been throwing, I don't want to say well, but he hasn't been throwing to where we know his ceiling to be, which is a guy who is capable of getting you 10, 11, 12K outings when he's really got his nastiest stuff. And I really kind of saw more than glimpses of that when he was able to sit down 9 guys against a Cleveland team that simply doesn't strike out. So I really like what Lodolo's been doing over his last 2 starts. I think we're getting a very competitive number here for a guy that I think is going to throw nasty gas against a Pittsburgh team who their bats are up and down and a little bit streaky, but they strike out a lot. Even when they're getting hits. And that's the big thing here with Lodolo. And we're going to talk about the bullpen usage here. Only one guy, a left-handed reliever in Sutter, has threw 25 pitches for Cincy yesterday. So the bullpen is extremely well rested, which I think gives Lodolo good confidence that even if he is getting hit around or he gives up a couple of home runs in the long balls, because that is like the concern with Lodolo, he throws hard so the ball leaves the bat hard and it gets in the air, so it can tend to go out of the park. But with this super well-rested pen here, even if he's getting beat up a little bit, I think that he's going to have the confidence to continue to attack his K stuff, even if he's running his pitch count up early. Because that's the thing with K guys, is if they continue to stick in against batters that they've had 8, 9, 10 pitch plate appearances with to get that K, it takes away their ability to pitch deep into games. But when you have 8 guys in your pen that haven't thrown in 48 hours, you're going to have the confidence to go to know that your pen's going to have your back and pick you up in this game. So that's why I'm on Lodolo.
Yeah. It's a starting point there. I mean, Pittsburgh just cannot not strike out, like you were saying. I mean, it's up above 25% now against lefties for their K rate. So I zero problem with that. I love Nick Lodolo. He's going to be fire next season as long as he keeps staying healthy, right? Like he's coming back from I thought he was going to be back this time last year and he just never came back. Right. Yeah. So it's one of those like extended rehabs that you see a lot of times from pitchers, man, and they try to be optimistic, but with him getting back into form and pulling up, pulling really, like you said, not worrying about getting hit a little bit harder. The offense been a little bit better for Cincy than it was last year with some of these players coming on. Obviously some injuries have really helped that not helped that, I should say, and really hurt that. But I'm completely with you on the play here and everything that you're about with it. And the bullpen for Cincy also really makes me want to take Cincy if you get a decent number as well on the money line. Anything with that game? Like, is there a first 5 player or anything like that you're looking at, or mostly just looking at the Ks for this man? Because you don't really know if he's, like you said, he could give up the runs and he's still likely to get the Ks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm mostly looking at Lodolo to pitch well here. Cincy, let's see what they are on the money line. Because I don't know. I could see Cincy here. We're getting -132, -130, -124. I don't have Superbook. Offshore, -122, -129. Yeah, I mean, look, at -130, I think the Reds are a decent play. I would have to do a little bit. Actually, why don't you go with your play? I'll do a little bit more digging on Felter and see if there's a first 5 I like there. Because if Felter pitches well, because I know since he does strike out a fairly good amount, even though they have a lot of power, I could see an under in the first 5 here, to be honest with you.
I like it. Yep, I like it. Well, yeah, I'll get into my play. Let me know if you have anything else with that. Obviously, we can always
go ahead.
But yeah, a quick reminder too to everybody that's jumping in. I've got a look already. I know that Oaks has Houck as a lean that we are going to talk about anyway, but we also got Cody talking about wanting to look at Houck K's. So we have that up in the up next. You can see what's coming up from the chat after we're done throwing out these plays here. But I'm gonna get into some of my stuff for the first play, which honestly, like, I'm annoyed that I started to look at public money and see that like a number of other freaking clouts were giving out Aaron Nola Ks because it's so low that it's going to catch a lot of people's eye. And I still like when I was going in and trying to justify why I would bet on Aaron Nola in this situation, I found a good amount of stuff that I liked that really led me to go, this is fine. So really what you're going to see as the key indicators here. And I'm using Fangraphs right now too, just for everybody. This is something I really like. It's not the like sexiest interface of all time. And it takes a second to get through, but hey, baseball isn't the sexiest of sports all of the time. So just keep that in mind. But there's a lot of different filters on here that really let me look at what I want to look at very, very specifically. So I'm a pretty big fan of it, but what's up?
Clean Money Gibbs just brought up a good point. That's my next play. So we'll definitely be talking about sticks. I really like sticks today. So that'll be the next play.
Tristan McKenzie's nickname?
What's up?
His nickname is Sticks.
Yeah, his nickname's Sticks because he looks like he's made out of sticks, dude. He's really tall. He's got lanky arms, long legs. He looks like a stick.
Dope. Yeah, we got him in the upcoming then. But looking at the first thing I was looking at for Nola, right, and what you're going to see talked about. If I'm on batting and on these team stats right here, this is a really good way to just see specific, obviously batting stats. But you can also split here to lefties and righties. Aaron Nola is a big dominant righty, so we're looking at K percentage versus righties, and you're going to see that if I filter this the other way, San Diego is the second best team at not striking out versus right-handed pitching. So that's one reason that this thing is so low at 4.5. Nola just got shelled as well. I'm just going to pull up. I also like to have the pitcher.
He got absolutely blasted in Boston. I don't think he made it out of the second inning, right?
Yeah. No, he went 3 and like a third, I believe. But like not very far out of the second inning.
Yeah, I watched that game because I think I threw a sprinkle on his Ks, and I was like, well, if you're not going to make it today, at least I can turn this game off and focus on something else.
Facts. So if you're on desktop, a lot of what you want to like, how you want to split things is going to be up here on the left in this little column right here, which is a nice little ad that they changed from last season. And then I'm going to scroll down because I'm starting with the game log and just looking at some of the standard stats. I can also change this to advanced as well if I want to. But obviously you can see here against Boston, went 3 2/3, only 2 strikeouts because he had 11 hits that he gave up and 8 earned runs. That was in Boston as well. Pretty obviously hitter friendly park there at Fenway. And plus Boston, the other thing I was looking at is like Boston's scored 7 or more runs in 5 of their last 6. So if looking at the streakiness for Boston, like they're on a hot tear right now for sure, which at about 500 on the season, it's not like things come and go for them. They're going to average back out and regress back to the mean, I would say. But the thing here for Nola too, is if you look at his stuff versus San Diego, right? So San Diego has been a really good team at not striking out for the last 2 seasons, especially. Really good play discipline, and really that they walk a decent amount and don't strike out. So for Nola, he's going to give up some walks here and there. He's at about 2, but I'm really narrowing this down to roughly his last like 10 games. He also kind of had a rough start. You can see early on, only went 4.1 against Atlanta, 5.2 against the Nats, when the Nats still weren't very good at hitting as they have been over the last like 10 games. So like the things have started to come back to normal for him. I would say this little like 5-6 game stretch of going 6 or 7 innings is what you should expect from Nola. And if he can manage to keep batters off of the paths with walks, then he should be in a good position to go the like 6.2 innings that he's been averaging over the course of the last 10 games. So I'm going to just filter the dates real quick so it's for the last 10 for them, which was about June, where are we at here? June 18th. So it was about June 8th or so that they played a little bit more than 10 games. But you can see this is, I'm still on Nola. Oh, no, my bad. I'm trying to look at not July 2nd. My bad. Let me go back to June. That's where I'm at. We're not in July yet.
Correct. Yeah. Are you looking for last 10
here
games?
we go. Basically right here because May 3rd. And that was another little thing too. You can see obviously the date that his starts have been on, which is nice. They bold that so you can see all the dates that if you want to go back to these starts. So I can even go back to like April 26th when he started to really pick things up and see that like the strikeout rate up to 52. He's throwing about 6.2 innings per game in this situation in the last roughly like 10, 11 games. So extrapolate this out as much as you want, but the key here for me with Nola has been the fact that he can go the distance. And if you look at him versus San Diego last season, which is something I pulled up as well, in the last 3 that he's gone up against SD, he's still gotten those Ks with relatively the same lineup. He's got a 22% K rate against the San Diego Padres with who he could likely face today. So it's not exact, right? Because we don't know the exact lineup for the Padres today, but with the available players that they could hit. And I like getting this on ESPN. It's as simple as like Googling it and then going to the ESPN because it's really nice and simple right here. And it's already a batter versus pitcher kind of situation. So I can just take Aaron Nola on ESPN.com and change the team that I want to look at. So if you look at this, 103 at-bats and 23 Ks. So it's about a 22% K rate, which is a lot higher than the 18% that they normally have against right-handed pitchers, meaning Nola's had some good success against this San Diego team with most of the dudes, like I said, that'll be in the lineup for them today. So not too worried about that. The other thing is like, yeah, they're a little bit better at not striking out against lefties, but in the last 5 games, the Padres have faced 3 lefties and 2 righties, right? The 2 righties were Christopher Sanchez and Hogan and Tyler McGill rather. And then there's 3 lefties in there. So they've struck out at least 5 times in all those games. Nola's at about 8.2 or 8.7 rather Ks per game that he's facing this team. Now he's gone at least 6.2 in the last 3 that he got those Ks. So I do need him to go into the inning a little bit deeper into the game. But even if he goes like 5.2 or 6 exactly, like we're looking at about a K per inning, which is what he's been at. His Ks per 9 is a little bit above that as well for a number of these games. And if it's at like 8 Ks per 9, whatever, like I just need him to get 5 here, man. So he's been well above that. And like I said, I'm not worried about the walks either, because even if he gets those guys on base, he's been pretty good at getting out of trouble with a pretty high left on base percentage, almost 70%. So feeling pretty good about Nola. And I had to find ways to really talk myself into it to overcome the fact that this was clearly going to be a popular play. When you see a guy who's capable of getting, 9 strikeouts in 7 innings, have a 4.5 K line, you're going to see a lot of overs here, right?
Yeah. And I would say that, again, I'm pretty sure that was the game after the London series. So there was a little bit of excessive travel there, a little jet lag possibility. The one thing I would say about Nola is, like, I understand that this is a massive bounce back spot and a really intriguing play because of who he is and what he's capable of doing. My big thing here is Luis Arraez, batting at the top of the order, has a sub 3% K percentage versus right-handed pitching this year. Like, you're not striking out Luis Arraez, period. And if you do, great. Like, that's a bonus. The rest, I know this San Diego team has been in a little bit of a slump here recently. I haven't watched a ton of San Diego since King got that outrageously high K total. Of course, the start after I got hooked on him when he left the game for a fly out with a 2-strike count. So, whatever. I'm not going to sit here and complain about bad beats, but I will tell you that the San Diego lineup is tough if they have their best lineup out. And the guys that I think are going to be in the lineup that Nola's faced a ton before or not a ton, but a statistically relevant amount is Cronenworth, Pofar, Machado, and Peralta. And he has an 8.3 K percent against Peralta, which isn't great, but has a nice 27.8 K percent against Machado and a 27.3 K percent versus Cronenworth. So those are 2 targets. Those are 2 guys I expect him to be able to pick up a K against. Profar, he hasn't done super well against, but the other targets in this lineup is Wade at the 9 hole is an extremely K prone hitter. And then, Solano is another guy that I can see Nola getting here. So, and then the other thing I would say is that typically, unless Nola's having a bad day, he's the kind of guy that if the manager gives him the ball to start the 6th, we got a check goal, baby. Oh, wow. The dogs are barking right now. I got to see who scored that, because if it was Patrick Schick, then we cash a nice little plus 400. But I am on both teams to score as well. Sorry to interrupt. We have breaking soccer news. It was Pavard. Okay, no worries there. But yeah, now we just need a Portugal goal to cash our both teams to score ticket. So anyway, that was a little side note. But yeah, I like Nola here. This is a low gettable not line. I think you got a very good number on it at the -128.
Right.
It's a number I would start to pull back on, though. Like you said, if we start approaching -145, -150, or if this number shifts to over under 5.5, that's where I expect the market buyback and the market pullback to be. So yeah, that's kind of all I got.
Exactly. That I should have mentioned that. I gave out the play at -128 on FanDuel about 2 hours ago when I was like, oh, this thing's moving, because every other book has it at -140 or worse. And now it's at -188 on FanDuel. So
I was gonna say, yeah, if you want to give me the screen real quick, I will just kind of show you the unabated numbers right now on Nola. I do think we're probably starting to see starting lineups trickle out too.
Cool.
So that's probably going to increase the speed at which these numbers move. Yeah, so he's already flipped to over under 5.5 here on FanDuel. You can get 4.5 at -135. I think that's still within range. I'm bottoming out at like -140, and -145 for me is absolute rock bottom.
Yep. I wouldn't take it past -140. I think you can get a minus. Did you say there's a -135 hanging?
-135 hanging up on DraftKings. -139 on Caesars, who is a high limit book. -141 for those of you who only have offshores. So I think that is still a playable number. I personally am not interested in getting involved at this at 5.5 because I think that San Diego is a pretty K adverse lineup, but
sure.
I love this bounce back spot for Nola to at least get 5 Ks.
Yeah, I'm with it. He's got a really, really good outside the zone K rate as well. So guys are swinging and missing. So he's going to need that. I mean, obviously,
his swing and miss stuff, his chase rate,
which is why he has a longer leash for batters and walks, right? Because he needs to play with fire a little bit.
And he's a tank, dude. Like his arm is perfectly capable of going up into 110. You maybe not want to get there this early in June, but if it's a game that you need, look, Phillies are blowing people away in baseball right now. So, look, I think he's good. His leash for at least 100 pitches. So, I'll move on to Sticks, Tristan McKenzie, aka my boy Sticks. And look, I can get into a bunch of the advanced metrics here, but I'm just going to keep it simple on this one. Seattle fucking blows, guys. Seattle's K rate is absurd. No matter what split you do, last 30 days, last 15 days, season long, righties, lefties, home, away, they're going to be in the top 5% of every single category. So Seattle, for me, is one of the most K-prone teams in all the MLB. It doesn't matter how you filter or sort it. This team strikes out a ton. Now, Sticks had a little bit of a rough start. He was coming off of a bad injury at the beginning of the season, and they started him slow with a low pitch count. He had a lot of walks, which I'll show you here. And that still continues to be a little bit of Sticks' issue, is that he walks a lot of guys. You'd see in the first 3 games, 2 wasn't bad at Seattle because Seattle just doesn't walk. But then, 4, 6, and then brought it back into his normal range, which is, 2 to 3 walks a game. And like I said, he has pitched against Seattle already this year, and he did only have 2 Ks in that start. But again, he was coming off of injury and stuff like that. But what I really want to show you is that Sticks is a better pitcher at home, not just this season, but even going back to last season before his kind of injury issue here. So, I'm not going to say completely ignore this, but this Houston game is really kind of where he picked up the knock. So this is like a 4-game spread in here that, for me, I kind of leave out of my handicapping or whatever. But look at how dominant Sticks has been against this number at home, even against really K-adverse teams. Now, when I flip over to his away, you can see that he's definitely not the same pitcher on the road. And that's because he has a little bit of walk issues. When you're on the road and you have a lead, you tend to have a little bit of a shorter leash because your coach your manager really is trying to get you that W, and then he knows that he can go to a rested, reliable pen if he has one. So yeah, I think that Sticks at home here. I know the line is 5.5, and I had kind of been feasting on the fact that they were giving us over under 4.5 for the entire season because of his injury issue and his slow get back. So I cleaned up on that, but I do like him here at home versus an awful Seattle team. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was Sticks' last start in Cleveland. Against Cincinnati. He threw really well. It's not a division game. It's a state kind of rivalry game in Ohio. And he was throwing well, but he got the hook in a close game after 75 pitches. So his arm should be more rested than a typical start in the middle of the season here. And he managed 4 Ks with only 4 hits allowed, 2 earned runs and 2 walks, still getting 16 outs before the pen came in and cleaned that up. So I think he's got a little bit more of a well-rested arm. And Cleveland had yesterday off, plus the fact that they threw a bullpen game on Sunday. So let me find. I gotta go up. Sorry.
Where are you at on Fangraphs right now? Can you help me?
Yeah.
See how you got
so this is a tool I found super helpful for betting over-unders, money lines, first fives. This is every pen arm in your bullpen. Sorry, I'll just scroll up like this. This is roster, resource, closer, depth chart on Fangraphs. And I'll share the link here in our chat if you guys want to kind of check this out for yourself. But this, for me, this is what I would use all the time when we were having that DraftKings up to early win promo. Portugal just scored. Let's fucking go. Catch that full teams to score.
I want you to know how bad he needed this, y'all. Yesterday was not a good day. Today
it was not, but today has been excellent. We've been
you deserve it, Lodolo. You deserve it.
And Arda Guler, the young bull for Madrid, had a nice goal there for Turkey too. So yeah, anyway, as you guys can see here, Cleveland had an off day yesterday. Nobody threw. On Sunday, they threw a bullpen game. Every single arm in their pen, pretty much except for Hearn, threw. And their closer, Klaus. So yeah, and then before that, decently well rested. So this pen isn't like taxed, but each guy threw about 15 to 20 pitches in kind of a bullpen game there on Sunday for Cleveland.
Yeah.
So I think they're well rested, but they're not so well rested that Sticks will get the early hook again, like he did versus Cincinnati. And I actually just don't expect this game to be nearly as close. So I think Sticks is going to have a lot longer leash with the more well-rested arm. And like I said, there's just every single batter, 1 through 9, in Seattle's lineup is a K target for Sticks here. So yeah. I like Sticks. I think that, going any deeper into the stuff we got with him is a moot point. Yeah. So I'm just going to take Sticks at plus 110.
Yep. I dig it. I mean, yeah, he's capable of it. You showed that, in terms of the last 10, last 20, and especially playing in the home park there for the Guardians. So yeah, nothing really to add. I've been waiting for Sticks to obviously like stand out a bit. Sounds like he had to get to the AL, and now he's looking like a stud. So good for him. And yeah, I'm with that pick, but I'll keep it moving then. And just
real quick, just because Free Sauce asked a really good question here. He wants to know a little bit more about Unabated. Unabated isn't just a baseball props research site. So Unabated, what they're doing is they are giving you the market price across all the different sports books that I have access to in Michigan, and even a couple I don't, that they partner with and use to promote their product. But this is a line shopping tool for current market price on everything. So you got NBA here. You can do odds, props. You can do MLB. You can do strikeouts. Like, you see this whole list here. And it does it for any of the sports that are active. I use this a ton in college basketball. And the thing with Unabated is it's not just a line shopping tool. If you get really deep into becoming a handicapper and you do stuff like Josh and other handicappers do, where you build your own projection models, the thing Unabated does is they charge their premium subscription fee so that you can upload your projection models directly to Unabated, and then it will show you from your own model where you have an edge against a sportsbook's line in which sportsbook. So all you have to do is one click, add it to your bet slip, and you can bet it. So Unabated's a tool for a lot of more heavy duty handicappers, but it works out really well. It's just a price tool for the casual gambler to shop prices across markets.
Yeah. Facts. Yep. And that's a little bit of what I responded to Free Sauce in the chat with, which is a great question. And that's
I didn't see that.
No, but you went into it. I was like, please get into it more deeply, because I compared it a little bit more to Odds Jam than to Props.cash, but it's Odds Jam on steroids, to be honest.
Yes.
And you can get some of the same sort of like, if you, depending on the price you want to pay for a subscription, you can get different subscriptions that are like, okay, now I have the arbitrage tool, right? Things like that. So that's going to be something for plus EV bettors as well. And yeah, the uploading your own projections model is like I said, that's what puts it on steroids as much as anything. So yeah, solid tool. But let me, I'll jump into my next play here. Once again, they're all scrolling on the bottom line, and Kat Lee was asking about Lodolo, because I think she came in a little bit late. But we went over on Lodolo for a number of reasons, including just how much Pittsburgh strikes out against lefties. So keep that in mind if you're trying to go under 6.5 Ks for the big lefty on Cincy. I'm going to get into and steal the screen back here for some. I'm going a little bit more on a side here, and I was considering the first five, but what I'm looking at, and I'm actually going to go over to games for the MLB and pull up this. Where are my Nats at? So the Nats are good at hitting. I'm not sure if anybody knew that, because they weren't very good at it for a while.
They were really good at not striking out, except for Joey Gallo. Except for Joey Gallo, the rest of the team really good at not striking out. Joey Gallo is a walking K.
Yeah, he's gonna K. That's not a question. Thing is that we're looking at I'm known, it's Slade Ciccone. I'm sorry, I'm messing it up. But if you can't pronounce his name, let me get to let me actually just go back to props for a minute, because I'm going to show you just how bad Slade is. But where are we at with props? Here we go. My bad. So pulling up, I'm going to pull up Slade. Please don't make me spell his last name. Oh yeah. Okay. So it's 1C to start. You got to take unders for this kid. This kid he has not figured it out at all. Just so you guys know. So I also considered over 4.5 runs for the Nats. But if you look at the way that this dude has pitched as basically in all 8 of his starts, he actually started the year pretty well, which isn't surprising, because, and I'll just go to, let's do earned runs for a minute. Not that surprising that he started the year well, at least in his very first start. This is some of this last year. So these are the first 2 starts. Let me get into 2024, my bad. So in 24, right, first 2 starts, pretty good against a bad San Francisco lineup. And as Oaks just told you, a very bad Seattle lineup. And also, really no one had seen him. So it was 2 starts where the pitcher has a bit of the advantage, because the hitters have not seen him yet. Then since then, just kind of crashed and burned, to be honest with you, other than when the Mets were still in the middle of a little cold slump. But it's a lack. It's not necessarily just a lack of control. He's inducing weak contact, which is interesting. But he's also giving up. He's got about a 19% or 16% K rate right now, and Ks per 9 is up at about 1. Let me pull up my notes so I don't mess it up. But his Ks per 9 also, I just want to rattle these off real quick. Ks per 9 is 2.44. That is very, very bad. 16% home run to fly ball rate. So 16% of the balls that are leaving the bat and going upward are leaving the park as well. Not that bad of a number. I would say a little bit closer to about like middle of the pack for when it comes to his, like I said, he's inducing some decently weak contact. But for the most part, like if you make contact with it, you're probably going to get a hit, especially for this Nats team that has not relied on that. What the Nats have been good at for their last 10 games has been, well, not winning. They're 9-1. They've got the 6th best batting average against righties, 5th best overall. They have the 9th best on base percentage, 9th best weighted runs created plus. So some of these numbers that just look like gibberish, like weighted runs created, this is essentially everything sort of being, but what baseball does, because there's so many at bats and so many different players, is it takes the average It basically says the average is 100, right? So the league average is 100 in terms of how many runs you're creating. Everything over 100 is going to be a little bit better than average, and they are about ninth in that over their last 10 games against righties. So keep in mind, like, sample sizes, it's a very long season. I do think in baseball you can take a little bit more of what's happened recently and use it to your advantage because of the fact that teams tend to go on streaks. Now, it's not quite the same thing as you might see in the NBA, where like Anthony Davis goes from scoring, he goes 40, 15 points, 38 points, 12 points, 10 points. Like, it's not like that in baseball quite as much. You don't get the every other start sort of syndrome that some players get in other leagues. But with as many games as you have, it's easier to just stay in a rhythm. You played last night, then you play today. You're going to play tomorrow as well. So with a lot of games in a row, I think you can look at some recent numbers and start to use it. And then find spots where maybe you think a trend is going to be bucked. But for this one, like, I'm taking the Nats minus 122 on the money line. That is on the bottom line as well. Minus 122, I'm fine with in this case, because the other thing about the Diamondbacks is they're going to take the ball from Ciccone after he's done giving up at least 3 runs in what I would imagine is going to be about 4 innings pitched for the young man. And then they're going to give it to the bullpen, which is absolutely terrible. Basically the 5th worst bullpen, we'll just call it, with all the numbers combined. 5th worst opponent batting average, 5th highest xFIP, which is fielding independent pitching. So FIP and ERA are not necessarily interchangeable, but let me go to pitching stats real quick. If I pull up pitching stats just to be helpful here, you can look at where are we at? Okay, so xFIP and FIP, right? So expected FIP is what would happen, what were the expected numbers and outcomes of the bat coming off the ball. Because in baseball, right, like, there's so much variance, there's so many different outcomes that can come. Like, you can hit a ball 105 miles per hour off the bat, which is very fast, and it could land in somebody's glove, right? That's not uncommon, especially if you hit a line drive that you're like, oh, I smoked that, but it doesn't find the gap. So some of these stats in terms of expected numbers, those are going to be more helpful to understand, like, averaging out what would normally happen when the dude hit the ball that hard off of the bat. What would normally happen? Well, it would normally be a hit. So that's going to go against your expected FIP or expected ERA and stuff like that, right? So that's the stuff that I'm using to sort of talk trash here on Ciccone, as well as the bullpen, which has just been putrid. So, and just to show everybody how to do that real quick too, as far as pitching, you can go to positional stats here. So there's just so much, man. You're going to want to take a look around. But if you change it to relief pitching and then you get some more bullpen stats, you can see, let's see, xFIP, for example. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom here. This is for the Diamondbacks 5th worst in terms of the expected fielding independent stats, which is right on par with the actual FIP, right? It's like a little bit worse, or I'm sorry, it's basically the same. It's 4.46 and 4.47. So when you see this, like, okay, sometimes you'll see a FIP that's high and an xFIP that's low. Well, maybe you can start to bank on some positive outcomes starting to go the way of the pitcher, because normally what would happen over a large sample size is that all the balls that have been hits and runs, they might actually normally be not hits and outs in over time, right? Because you have to really extrapolate things over time. You need as much sample as you can get when it comes to baseball. So that's why xFIP and xERA are going to be super helpful. But you can still look at ERA and FIP, especially if they compare super closely to the expected numbers. So that's what I'm using to say Washington, like, no matter what, I'm good with them today. I mean, Jake Irvin is by no means a world beater from the mound. So if you wanted to go over, that's where I would go before I'd go under. But the Nats bats are going to have a field day, in my opinion, against Ciccone. So I took minus 122 there. And I looked at the first 5 as well, but Irvin, I guess, was enough of an edge for the Nats that it was not worth the juice at first 5. And so if you're a little bit new as well to baseball, first 5 is going to be basically what happens at the end of 5 innings. And then there's a spread. It's basically like halftime, right, in the NFL or in NBA. So any thoughts on that huge diatribe about Slade Ciccone?
No, I think you did a nice job there. And yeah, so, expected stats are what is going to happen on average across the league based on average fielding position, average fielding talent, blah, blah, blah. Actual stats are what's actually happening. So if you see, the FIP higher than the xFIP, you're going to expect regression closer back to that xFIP. If you're seeing the FIP lower than the xFIP, you're going to expect regression back towards the mean. Yep. So yeah, expected stats versus actualized stats are always a decent little conversation here. Nice. Next up on the list, we got Houck over 4.5 Ks, which is a lean I have, and I would be happy to be sold on this lean of Houck because Houck is throwing well. 2024. Let me make sure I have all his filters off here. Yeah, I mean, look, he's getting this number fairly consistently. I know Toronto is a pretty K adverse team. But Toronto is hot and cold. And I know our boy Cody, who's a Canadian homie of ours, is a huge Toronto fan. And looking at props.cash, you're like, oh, wow, dude, they're probably the second or third least K adverse team in the MLB, especially over the last 30 days, blah, blah, blah. The thing you got to remember about Houck and Boston pitchers in general is Boston is on a new, I want to say, hypothesis or trying out something new here with advanced metrics, with, kind of the money ball kind of stuff where they're not pressuring their pitchers into throwing fastballs if that's not their best pitch. And it's certainly not Houck's best pitch. His best pitch is his off-speed stuff with his slider, and he's nasty with it. He's got incredible movement on it, and he throws it well, and he throws it well for strikes. So you don't see a ton of guys that are that reliant on their off-speed stuff, and I'll show you exactly how to look that up here in an example with some tools from baseballsavant.com. So what I really like to do is I like to go over here to visuals, and then I come down here to the visual pitcher report. And now I put in Houck's name, Tanner Houck. This is going to show me every pitch he's thrown in the 2024 season is a graph like this, and it's going to be color-coded with each color representing a different pitch. And as you can see here, he's thrown his sinker, which is a variation of a fastball, 30.6% of the time, but it's a breaking fastball. He throws his slider 42% of the time. He throws his split finger, which is also a fastball, but it's a breaking fastball, 24.3% of the time. And then he barely uses his cutter 3% of the time, which is kind of counter-breaking fastball, but you guys get the point. He's throwing mostly his slider and variations on fastball that create more break and more swing and miss stuff. And then you can come down here and you can continue to look at his zone location. This is what I expect more from junk ball pitchers or off-speed pitchers, where you're going to see the spread of their pitches kind of be more across the plate as opposed to the traditional diagonal following the arm angle going from the top left to the bottom right corner, where your fastballs are going to stay high and tight up here and your junk balls are going to break off down here. So we see that he keeps the spread and he really pounds this lower middle third of the zone to the bottom of the zone, and he doesn't get very much high up here, which is where guys are looking for high fastballs. When you need a strike, that's the pitch that you leave a hanger on and people take you yard on. So anyway, Houck throws a lot of off-speed stuff, which I think is going to be helpful here against the Jays. He has good location. Let me see. Nope, this is his release angle. So again, he pounds the zone. He throws 53.1% of his pitches in the zone, which is well above the league average, which is just shy of 50%. He throws less outside the zone. Obviously, if he's throwing more above average in the zone, he's throwing less outside the zone. But this is where the art of pitching really takes over. This is the corners. This is where you get where you force the ump into making a decision on a ball or a strike, and you force the batter into a position of trying to take or trying to swing on what is primarily junk balls or off-speed balls. So you can see that he really paints the edge of this zone well, and again at the bottom of the zone. So you're going to get a high swing and miss rate on him. In Toronto, they're just super inconsistent. The other thing I really like about Houck is when he gives up contact, it's mostly ground ball contact. He's not going to get people leaving the yard and stuff like that on him. And then lastly, on Houck, if we break his splits into home and away, He's been – look, this line is lower than he typically is because of who he's facing in the Blue Jays. He has been outstanding both home and away. Away, he has a little bit less consistency than he does at home, but he still has a really nice floor here where he hasn't gotten less than 4 Ks except for his first start of the season. I think it looks like, yeah. Is that his first start of the season?
Oh.
Yeah. It's third start of the season, first home start of the season. But, I think Houck has a very gettable number here. And the bats in Toronto's lineup, they haven't seen a ton of Houck. But look, if Toronto's got Schneider in there, he's super K prone. Horwitz is a rookie. I know he's hitting the ball well, but he's a rookie going against a guy who throws a lot off speed and works the bottom of the zone. I think that's going to be a tough matchup for him. I think I expect his K percentage to be a little higher after this game because I do think that's a good target. Dustin Verashow can't hit the ball at all, 28.8%. That's a clear strikeout target there. And then we got a borderline guy here in Barger. So that's 1, 2, 3 pretty good, good to borderline guys. A rookie that would make it 4. So I think that he can get 4.5 here, and I like it because of the price point on Houck. Let me see here. Houck, yeah. 4.5. See, this market's starting to move, so that makes me think that the lineup's out. 4.5 is now juiced to -145, -139. So the lineup has got to be out. I'll take a look at this lineup here in a quick second. Let me just see what I had Houck listed for. Yeah, so this has moved away from us at -120 a little bit by almost 20 cents on the dollar, 25 cents on the dollar. That makes me a little more hesitant to take it unless I see a lineup that's going to have more clear K targets in it here. So, okay, yeah. So you got Horwitz, Schneider, that's a huge K target right there. Vlad's been hitting decently well. Verashow, who we already talked about. So you got Barger in here. And then these guys, look, Kirk, he doesn't have enough data to be statistically relevant, but he's kind of a K target as well. I know he hasn't been playing super well this season compared to last year. So, yeah, I mean, I can
Bo got hurt. If Bichette hadn't gotten hurt, we still have another K target.
Yeah, if Bo Bichette was still in this lineup, that's a prime K target. But look, I think 4.5 is doable. I liked it a lot better at -120. I'm probably going to stay away from it at -140, -145.
Yeah, I'm not seeing lineups either for the Jays. That's other than that, but it doesn't seem like that's fully.
No,
that one is. I thought it said waiting still, but it looks.
No, this one's official. Yeah,
so
the Jays officially have their lineup.
Okay, it hasn't come through over here then. Yeah, okay, that's cool. So just wait on
real quick before we move on. Somebody mentioned Houck outs.
17.5.
17.5. I mean. Let me take a look at their pen. So when I talk about outs, a big thing for me is pen usage. So if he's got a gassed pen, they're going to depend on him to go deeper into the game.
Right.
No, he's got
this
pretty well.
This is Fangraphs, and you're looking at recent outings for each of these relievers, right?
Yes. So this is roster resource depth chart, closer depth chart. And this shows you the past 6 days. So I know it doesn't show it is like the header for every single one, but I just know that, the first one here is yesterday, day before. They're going all the way back 6 days. And then they sort it by, they sort the teams by your division. So I think that's a decently good way to organize it. And the other thing I want to mention here is this is a divisional game. So divisional games tend to be kind of tricky. He's got a well-rested pen. Portugal just scores to take the lead 2-1. Let's fucking go. So look, he's got a pretty rested pen behind him. Boston's I don't know. Boston's pen's kind of prone to coughing up games, but not as much recently. He's got a well-rested pen behind him. I think if the game's tight, that this outs might be a little bit of a sweat because of how rested the pen is. And again, because this is a divisional game, divisional games really do mean more in baseball. They're basically 2-game swings when it comes to making playoffs and missing playoffs. You have to win your divisional games so that you can try and avoid being a wild card team. I don't think Boston's gonna be anything in the playoffs. Like, this division is stacked. So I think that that's tough, but you do always want to show up and play your divisional games well, even though I think Baltimore and the Yankees are going to be the 2 teams going to the playoffs here. Boston's plays just about bang average 500 ball. The Rays are struggling with, pitching, all sorts of different stuff. In Toronto, I can't figure them out, Cody. They're a team that's not good, that should be good, that can't get the bat production, but sometimes has the pitching, but also sometimes their pitching just flat out sucks. So
this is where we would just throw in a montage of handicappers saying that for the last 3 seasons for the Blue Jays. Like, you could really just take what you just said and reuse it forever for this team. Since they started picking up all the former Major League Sons, essentially, is when they started to just underperform. Bo Bichette, Vlad is finally getting out of it a little bit, but yeah. I was going to add. So I want to ask. So you're saying because with the divisional games, how that's relevant to outs for starters is they are more willing to pull them early?
Yes, I think the starter has a shorter leash, especially in a close game. Because a divisional game, you're not going to want him to see. If you can avoid it, you're going to want to. Let me go back to Baseball Savant here with our.
Also, you saw minus 190 for the over on the outs for Houck.
Yeah. So the reason why is because he's cleared it in all but 2 starts. Right. So I would kind of look at the under here, to be honest with you, because my big thing here is you're not going to want Houck to see Vlad or Turner a 3rd time through the order if you can help avoid it. Right. So I think that if he's pitching well and he gets his K stuff and he's got a high pitch count, that when you start getting him into the 3rd time through this order, that even if they give him the 3rd time through the order for the top of the order, because let's say that's the 5th inning, you might give him Horwich, Schneider, and Vlad. I think that the way Turner hasn't been hitting the ball, but we know that he's capable of hitting the ball a lot deeper and he doesn't strike out, that's kind of the target of Vlad and Turner to get him out, because metrics say seeing a guy a 3rd time through the order, and especially a guy like Vlad and Turner, who we know have that capability to slug and put balls out of the yard, you don't want him to see an off-speed pitcher that pounds the zone that many times, because these guys are going to be looking for his off-speed pitches. He doesn't have a fastball to really change that up and attack the zone with, and Vlad and Justin can sit on that, and they can look to go Yabo there. So in a tight divisional game that's basically worth 2 wins, I think he's got a shorter hook here today.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I mean, look, we can trash Varsho for striking out, but he's also got 10 of his 11 dongs against righties. Yep. So that's going to be a problem as well. If it's like you said, 3rd time around for Varsho,
that's your power part of the lineup right there.
He's already closing his eyes and swinging anyway. So if he makes contact, he's going out, for Varsho. So yeah, I feel that. Can we? I wanted to look at a couple of things that people were bringing up. I think Houck ended up being a pass for me too on pretty much everything. I would actually probably sprinkle a little bit on the under for his outs at 17.5. I think that's a good look. The first one was a NRFI, but I kind of wanted to start with Cortes for a minute, because Free Sauce brought up Nestor Cortes a minute ago, and he's really interesting me. So I'm just gonna to show what I was looking at real quick for him, because I can see it going both ways, in a way that sometimes leads to stay away. But for Cortes, right, it's 17.5. It's a pretty obviously solid number for him. It seems to go 7, right? If he's gonna go that far into the game anyway. So the 21 outs there would be 7 innings pitched.
He's a better pitcher at home too.
Right. Yep. And this is at Yankee Stadium or whatever, Yankee Stadium. And the interesting thing here was like, K's actually intrigued me a little bit more against this Baltimore lineup than it did for the outs, to be honest with you, because I think he can rack up the Ks pretty quick, and we get 5.5 for decent money, -104. That is the best number there, and that is on FanDuel.
In a bounce back game too, and after he is coming off of a poor performance
against the Royals. Yep. 100%. So that's something to consider. Well, yeah, bounce back performance at home after playing on the road, where, as we established, he's much worse. Also had a tough outing against the Doyers, and that was at home. But yeah, it's hard to pitch against the Doyers, obviously. For the Orioles, it's kind of like boom or bust in a way that I do lean towards taking Cortes on the Ks before the outs. But I wanted to hear what you thought about it as well.
Yeah, look, I have his Ks on my leans here because I know right here, this was boom, number one on my list for leans here. Cortes is a lefty. He pitches well. He pitches better at home. He's coming off of, I don't want to say a poor outing, because Kansas City has just blown me out of water with how sustainable their adversity to strikeouts has been, because I watched Salvi Perez for years, just up there swinging at fucking ghosts, dude. He looked like Javi Baez. He looked like Joey Gallo. He has insanely good plate discipline this year. When he's making contact, he's hitting the absolute cover off the ball. So Salvi Perez is like a huge kind of comeback story, in my opinion, there anyway. And we do have, okay, perfect. We do have official lineups here for Baltimore. So, again, this is going to be season-long K percentages, and they're not going to look good here. I know for a fact, because I bet against Baltimore with lefties on the mound a lot, because they struggle to put the bat on the ball against left-handed pitchers. They're much more K prone. And we're seeing Gunnar Henderson not as the leadoff. We're seeing Westberg, who I'm pretty sure has
28.5% K percentage against lefties.
I was going to say,
let me read you some of these numbers real quick. Westberg,
I was going to say, I got him here,
right
as well, right?
Okay, nice.
Top stock cash, 28.8% versus lefties for your number one leadoff batter. Boom. I like a K straight out the gate there. You get 16.7%. You get two really tough bats there. Then you get 28.3% on Gunder. You get 25% on Santander. You get 33.3% on Hayes. You get 24.6% on Mateo. You get 39.6% on
39.6. I was like, when you go from, so you're going from,
I can show you guys.
You're going Cowser, McCann, Westberg. That is, you're going to get a K in that three-man little stint right there.
Yeah, I mean, basically everybody outside of the 2 and 3 hole hitters is a very, very good K target here. So if you are a Yankees fan and you are into taking the risk against a Baltimore team who is much more susceptible to striking out versus left-handed hitters, but will absolutely destroy you if you do not have good stuff. If you leave hangers on them and your stuff isn't very good that day, they will just beat the shit out of you. So I think that this Cortes line is very intriguing on his Ks more than his outs, and I would love to get sold on his Ks. I'm willing to go ahead and throw some units down if you can get me there to backing up the Ks stuff too, because I think -104 is a great price.
I don't have anything to talk you out of it. Like, I mean, the Orioles, they're a team that I actually sucked on betting on last year, to be honest with you, but they would just streak in.
They're much better this year,
but they're consistent this year a lot more so, because and how many times they scored 9-10 runs last year, where it was like, yo, you can't bring these runs with you to the next game. So it's making your averages look good that you're getting 9 or 10, but then you're also going two runs or fewer in like too many games here. So but this year, to your point, a lot more trustworthy. And the K percentage for those guys is just out of control, and a guy that bounce back at home will feel good going lefty, obviously, which will happen a good amount of times here. And then even lefty righty, where you don't have quite as short of a porch there for the righties at Yankee Stadium is really, really helpful to keeping things inside. And you can actually go after the righties a little bit more as a left-handed pitcher, right, in Yankee Stadium. So keep that in mind. Like Yankee Stadium, really short porch out there to right, and the righties pulling balls to the left field wall have a bit more difficulty getting that ball out. So that he can be a little bit more aggressive with those righties and jam them a little bit more inside if he can keep his stuff out off of the middle of the plate, which is going to be huge. But he's been really good with his control anyway, and has really been getting creamed by teams that hit really well outside the zone. If you look at the last couple starts for Nestor and the teams that he's been facing, including the Royals there. So I would prefer the Ks there. The outs, I think that's a little bit more of a gamble because that was the original request, was like looking at his outs. And I think the gamble comes into the fact that like, he could legit get pulled if he does happen to give those long balls to the Orioles, and that's really what it comes down to. But I still like the matchup for the K's. So let's get a couple more in here because we had a couple more, and I'm going to keep it to
real quick now. Before we move on. I just want to answer a couple of Free Sauce's questions here. So Free Sauce just asked two really good questions.
Cool.
The first thing you should look at when choosing a pitcher's K's or outs are the opposing team and how they fare against left-handed versus right-handed pitching, depending on the pitcher. So that's actually like three questions rolled into one, but that's not a problem because we'll break it down here for you. So let's start with Ks. When I look at K percentages, I look at not only the overall, again, this is probably just a slightly different part of Fangraphs than Josh was using, but I come over here to Fangraphs, I go to team, I go to update. This is season long, and I can sort by advanced season long K percentage. And then I can filter for right versus left, blah, blah, blah. I can add all these different filters here. I can even add day-night splits, whatever I want to do. But your K percentage here is important because when we say somebody has a 25% K percentage, you can think that means 1 in every 4 at-bats they're going to strike out. So that means, a starting pitcher typically sees most hitters in the lineup 3 times. Sometimes the top of the order guys, they'll see 4 times if they're pitching well. But, minimum batters faced means if a guy pitches a perfect game, he's going to see every batter 3 times exactly. So, again, if you got a guy who's 25% or above on K percentage, to me, that's an indication that he is a clear strikeout target. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And then guys between 20 to 25%, that gives you 1 in 5 every plate appearances. They're going to strike. They're striking out based on historical data.
Yeah, and so just I call those guys, because I was looking at this a minute ago, the league average right now is 21.8%. For overall teams. So that's just like the median there for the MLB.
So 1 in 5, and that's baseball. Like you're going to strike out probably, even if you're a really, really good, if you're Luis Ariza,
that's it.
You're only striking out 1 in 10 times, but there's a reason he's the best damn hitter in the game.
Yeah. The reason he almost hit 400 last year.
Right. So, anybody with 25% or greater is a clear K target for me. That's a guy I expect a pitcher that's got a strikeout rate of over 20% to strike out. The batter being 25% or higher. Anywhere from 20 to 25%, I call those borderline guys. And if I have 3 borderline guys in the lineup, I expect the pitcher to be able to get to 1 of them. I expect him to be able to sit 1 down. Yeah. So what I kind of try and do is when I go over here to this chart and I see the official lineups, is I just start counting guys who are clear K targets and borderline targets. And if I have 5, if the line's over under 5.5 and there's 4 clear K targets and 3 borderline guys, I think to myself, okay, I can kind of not bank on, but in my head, I'm like, okay, I can bank on 5 Ks there. There's 3 borderline guys in this lineup. If somebody's striking out at over a 30% clip, I might throw him in there for 2. But if you can get 2 of those borderline guys, then that's a guy I can confidently say I think is going to go his over. Now, if I look at this and I pull it up and the guy's lined at 5.5, and I'm like, I only see 3 clear strikeout targets of guys with 25% or higher in 1 or 2 borderline guys, I'm like, I can only really talk myself into realistically 4Ks here. Now I'm leaning the under. So that's just kind of how I do it. And it's not a perfect science. It takes a lot of gut and it takes a lot of experience doing this and watching games and just kind of understanding what guys hit well and what guys don't hit well. Like, when I watch games, like I'm looking on what balls are striking guys out, where are they uncomfortable in the zone? Does a pitcher have a really good jam pitch to get a lefty on the inside on the hands? Stuff like that. That all kind of factors into it. But broad scope, I'm looking at K percentage. I'm looking at, for guys right here, 24.5% rounded. We're calling that 25%. That's a clear K target on a pitcher. And again, if you want to see a pitcher's K percentage, you come down here to pitchers and it'll tell you his K percentage for the season.
Yeah.
So
it's viewable there, and you can use the you can use stuff like Outlier and
tons of, there's tons of different tools to use that are all going to give you basically with slightly different weight. Like that's again, weighted statistics are the important part here that help with your calculation formula. I'm just using Baseball Savant because it's free, because it's available, and it's a tool that gives you. I'm a very visual person. I like the heat maps. I like understanding that bright red means he's really good at that shit, and dark blue means he's ass.
Yeah, for sure. Cody, if you're talking about the one that he's on right now, it's Baseball Savant. So that is a solid one-stop shop for sure. And it's I'm going to be honest, no offense, Fangraphs, it's just cleaner as hell. Like the green and gray and black is a little outdated. But to give a quick, like really quick summary of that, just if you're brand new to betting on baseball, K percentage, opposing K percentage, and lefty righty, that should be considered in all of that. Like it really doesn't help me that much to know how much the Padres strike out against lefties if they're facing a righty pitcher. It really does. Now I will often keep that in mind and look at it for different reasons to know how they do in general. But if they don't have clear splits, then there's fine. But for the most part, you're going to see some pretty big splits between most batters, which is better against dudes with the opposite hand, worse against dudes with the same hand. So if you're a lefty batter versus lefty pitcher, that's one of the bigger, disadvantages in baseball for the batter, because of the fact that you see fewer lefties. There's just fewer lefty pitchers there's 10% of the population is lefty. So it's going to be fewer pitchers that are throwing lefty. And then if you've got the guy on the same side as you, you see the ball later, essentially, based on how you're standing at the plate and where the ball is coming from his arm. You see the ball a little bit later. And in baseball, 0.03 seconds matters like you wouldn't believe when it comes to timing and pitching and all that. So, all that stuff's really good. That's really high level. It's just like anything, though, because Oaks could have given you like 10 more levels of things to look at to keep in mind, right? When it comes to Ks and stuff like that, especially with betting, when you want to know context, like what's happened recently, how tired is the bullpen, all this stuff comes into play. But look, this is not going to be the first, or this is not going to be the last. It is the first, but it's not going to be the last baseball stream we do. We're trying to get these a couple times a week for you guys. So we'll all be picking up stuff together. But let's get through a couple more, because that was a really solid explanation. I want to start with Mr. Webb, because we both had him as a lean. That was my top lean, and it's hard for me to stay away. Now the outs are not worth it for me for Logan Webb, but if you want to pull him up real quick, so you can still get plus 115. I don't think that's available. I think Props.cash is a little slow to pull that through. But you can, let me see real quick too. Yeah.
Minus 104, plus 115. Yeah, they're both still available.
You can get it. Okay, cool. Dope.
Yeah, you can still get plus 115 over on DraftKings. Lineups aren't going to be out for this game yet. They're going to be out soon, though. So if you want to try and bet this before lineups come out and secure this number, I think that is a good move, because once they release lineups for this Cubs roster, the Cubs have the ability to be very K adverse and very K prone. So they're kind of straddling the line here on how they're going to end up moving this number.
It's a great call. Yeah. So unlike, I was about to say unlike the NBA, but the NBA sucks at giving out its lineups too. But it's even more important. Like, roughly who's going to be on the floor for an NBA team out of 5 dudes. Knowing all 9 guys in a baseball lineup takes a little bit more time and is even more crucial than you might consider, because of obviously you can plug and play different lefties or righties into the lineup depending on who the pitcher is. So you got to keep all that stuff in mind. It's a little bit less about injuries in baseball and a little bit more about gamesmanship between the managers to wait and hold their lineups until they really have to put them out. But at any rate,
I think the MLB requires them 2.5 or 3 hours before first pitch.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, at least 2.5. I'm pretty sure. So yes, because the 7:10 start, if it's 2.5, so it'll be 4:30. Yeah, I think it is 3, but I can't remember now.
I think it is 3, but I know that Baseball Savant takes a while for Google Stats to pull it from the official MLB website and load it into there.
Gotcha. Computers, man. All right. So for Logan, the first question was, there are 6K targets if I'm following. So as a right-handed pitcher, there are 6K targets if I'm following. Let me know what you mean by that. Like in terms of like dudes that would be guys that would be good for targeting.
Yeah, based on my logic here, if I look at right-handed pitching against this assumed starting roster for the Cubs here, if I go to right-handed pitching and I filter, I would say there's one clear K target, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's at least 4 borderline guys and one clear K target. So a total of 5 is what I'm looking at. And again, this is just using props.cash because official lineups aren't out yet. But I would call 22.1% borderline, 25.7 clear target, 32.9 clear target, 21.0 borderline target. If that makes sense.
Yep.
But anyway, I like Logan Webb. And you were getting into Logan Webb, so I'll let you keep going. I like him because he's been dominant on the road, and plus his last outing, if we go to his last 10, this is all still home or away. Sorry, I apologize. He just dusted Houston, the most K-adverse lineup in baseball, for 5. And that's a huge indicator for me that Logan Webb is not only pitching well, but his K stuff is good too. And the thing with Webb is he doesn't always have his K stuff because he's a ground ball pitcher. He pitches to contact, and he loves racking up double plays to get out innings quickly, which is why he's a super big workhorse who goes over his outs line with insane consistency.
Yep. Yeah, nothing to add. I like the case for him, but I think this is a situation of having to look at how the other team fares against certain pitches, because you're going to get things that are sinking down for him, like Oaks is saying. So a pitcher who is who is a ground ball pitcher, right, which you can look at on things like Fangraph. You'll see GB percentage, or maybe they have it on Savant as well.
Yeah, sure do. I'll pull them up on Savant just to show a different look.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because the ground ball percentage is huge. If a pitcher has, I would say a pitcher that's not really always looking for, it's going to be in the mid 30% in terms of ground balls. Like
94% ground ball pitcher.
Is he 94th?
Sorry, 94th percentile.
No, yeah, okay.
In the MLB. So he is top 6% at inducing ground ball contact of every MLB pitcher.
So there you go. Right. Like he's going to be one of the top pitchers at doing that, and actually probably gets a lot more Ks than most of the dudes that are in the top 10%, to be honest with you, because he's still a very good K pitcher, in part because he can go high he's got the speed, right? He's got the stuff, if you will. Some pitchers, if they don't have a very good fastball, they're keeping it down low, because if they get it too high and a guy makes contact with a high pitch, it's going out a lot more likely than if you got to go golfing for it down low, right? So plus his stuff is going to sink down out of the zone. So I would be wondering, could you actually help us?
Pitch is the sinker, like you're saying. He not only throws it the most, that's his best pitch.
Yeah, and that's just going to be what they call a heavy fastball at that point, right? Because it's like you're going to struggle to get under it and get a good launch angle. But I'm wondering, and you would be helping me out here too. What's the fastest way, or at least most efficient, to how do for you anyway, because I would take like a 7-step process on Fangraphs to get to what I want to find, which is how does the Chicago lineup fare against balls either low in the zone, or maybe you'd prefer to look at the specific pitch type, right? That changes things up that way. So you can go in and look at what Oaks is going to bring up is like how you find how a team does against a specific pitch type, right? Because now we're talking about guys having, Logan Webb probably has 4 pitches. So at that point,
yeah, he
a
does.
lot of guys are going to see, most starters have at least 4. Once you get up to 5, you're crazy. Once you get to 6, you're Pedro Martinez. So it's not as likely to see that from unless you're one of the best pitchers of all time. But 5 pitches would make you really, really even harder to scout. And obviously the point of having more pitches is you have the ability to baffle the batters. But at the same time, it's hard to be that good at that many things, as we know. So, go ahead and take over. Yeah.
I would also need to do a longer step process, but I would say that one of the more efficient ways to do it, if you want to look at, if you have batters, so this is where narrowing down the K targets comes into play. So what I would want to do is I would want to make a list of my individual batters I think are going to strike out. And then I could search them here in Baseball Savant. And then I can get every pitch that they've seen per game. So like if I want to look at the last 5 games that the Cubs have played against sinker ball pitchers like Webb, who's going to throw almost 40% sinker balls today, I would have to go back and find a pitcher that they faced that has a similar pitch profile as Webb. And then I could go and look at every K target and where they got their pitches and how they did against them. And it would show me, the outcome of per at bat results and just where they saw different pitches in here. But yeah, that is a complicated process.
Yeah.
And something that is it's gonna be really nerd in-depth research.
Yeah. I'm gonna show just to take the 1 second too for this, like the way I would do it on Fangraphs, and there's gonna be a ton of different tools. So like Savant is gonna be great for a lot of stuff. There's actually starting to become very few differences between a lot of these places who all know what the important data is for us to use and are giving it to us. But if I was doing it on Savant, I would go to batting and go to team stats, right? And then I would go down to probably pitch level data. It sometimes takes me a second, but we can go to pitch type. And I haven't quite looked at StatCast and pitch info is just going to be coming from basically 2 different places, right? But it's pretty much the same info. But if I just go to StatCast and go to pitch type, right now, I can see how teams do against certain pitches. This is going to be the percentage that they see, right? Not the percentage that they hit. Is that correct? Do you know by chance?
I don't know off the top of my head, and I would really like to look more, but I have our YouTube stream as like the smallest corner of my screen.
Oh, you're good. You're good. So pitch type is going to be just how often a team faces this pitch. Pitch type value is going to be how good they are at hitting it, right? And so this is weighted, which is just, once again, anything that's weighted is a number that is a little bit more accurate usually because it's compared against the league averages. So if the league average is whatever, 100, then they're going, or 0, for instance, in this case, then anything better than 0 is above league average. Anything below it is below league average. So if I'm looking at what he throws a lot, sinker, this sinker curve, can I just get sinker? Damn, that's filthy that they have it like that. I guess you could still call it basically split, or you probably just call the sinker curve at that point. Right? There's not going to be like a sinker fastball. This is slider, changeup. All right, yeah. So we'll just go with the sinker SI, and you can see how good teams are at hitting a sinker. So that's going to be Logan Webb's usually actually his strikeout pitch and something he'll throw consistently if he's got a runner on first and wants to get that double play, like Oaks mentioned a second ago. So I'm looking for the Cubbies against the sinker, and I got to go down pretty far here. You can see they're 24th in terms of the weighted their ability to hit the sinker compared to everybody else is basically their bottom 7 team in the league at doing that. So there are some things here in terms of how often you're going to see pitches that they're going to be facing. They're not good at hitting it, right? So pitch type value really helpful for this type of stuff too. When you get a guy that throws a very similar type of pitch very consistently, whether it's his sinker going down or a 4-seam fastball that's moving down a little bit as well or away from the batter, that kind of stuff. So I think that's huge for a guy like Logan Webb anyway. But I'm still leaning towards the over on the Ks for him. The outs are just juiced all the way down at like minus 180, 190, whatever it is for him to get the 6 innings, which is something he does super consistently. And honestly, once you get into minus 190 for something like getting 17 or 18 outs that he needs, like, yeah, he's good to go 6 innings very consistently, but not enough that you get an edge at like minus 190, in my opinion, right? Like if you put that into any model, it's not going to show you that you have a high percentage of edge over time. That's not a good bet. So
that's why the books won't move off that number either. Because if they go to 18.5, you're going to be able to determine an edge there, because chances are if Webb gets the ball to start the 7th, they trust him to finish the 7th.
Right. It's a good point. Yeah. Especially if it's not even that close of a game, but I don't know. The Giants suck, so who knows? Do you want to close it out with either King or Marsh talking about K's or outs?
I actually want to talk NRFI real quick, because we did have an ask about that. Okay. And I think that'll be kind of like the last thing that I can, teach without having to go super far in depth on anything. So like,
dope. Yeah, let's do that, because I'm gonna have to jump here in a sec too. So I'm gonna give you.
I got Jet too.
Do you want to do a NRFI from? Did you have a game you wanted to do it from? Because we got a question about.
So we did have a question about it. I forgot who asked it. I think it was Robert. He wanted to look at San Fran versus Chicago.
Yeah,
which I think is a really good look for NRFI, because I like Steele. I like what he's capable of, and I know that he doesn't give up a lot of hits in the first inning. And Webb away is better than Webb at home. So we'll take a look here, and all I'm doing here is when I come to props.cash, I'll just kind of show you the beginning if my computer will cooperate. No, can I not get props.cash homepage? Anyway, props.cash, when you first get to the homepage, it looks like this. It says hit rates. What I do is I go down here, I scroll to NRFI. I don't really care about 2003 anymore, because we're deep enough into the season that we're over a third way done with baseball. So we have what I would call a statistically relevant amount of information on each starting pitcher. Unless it's a guy coming off an injury, I'm really not going back to any 2023 data anymore, but that's helpful in April, May. So anyway, this is listed by the pitcher too. So this is going to give me the pitcher's results on NRFI, yes, FRI. So no will be the first number, yes will be the second number, and this will be historically how they've done in the first inning. We're looking at Webb. Webb on the road is 6 no runs first inning, 2 yes runs first inning in 8 starts. In his 15 starts this season, he's 10 no, 5 yes. So as you can see, like I said, I just remember this stuff because I look at it every single day and every week. I know Logan Webb's a little bit better on the road than he is at home by 1 game. Steele, he is coming off of an injury this year. He's only pitched 4 home games. He's got 3 no runs first inning. Overall on the season, he's got 8 no runs first inning, 1 yes run first inning. So that gives us, an implied probability of 59.6% here, just based on pitcher metrics. And then the other thing I think it's important to look at is last 10 for these offenses as a collective. And that'll show you season long and last 10 stats. So as we can see here, San Francisco, season long, no runs first inning, 30 out of 36 games. That's an 83% hit rate on no runs first inning. That's really strong, and it correlates here, 8-2 in their last 10. Now the Cubs do a little bit better job at hitting.
Just a question: Do you consider that type of stuff equally as important? Is that like hitters 1 through 4 for San Francisco are the least imposing 1 through 4, maybe in
yes,
the NL?
I do think that this is important because I'm a big believer in baseball. When your team's hot, they tend to stay hot. When the bats are popping, they tend to stay popping. So last 10 days for me is really important because if I see a team like Detroit, who I know is super K prone, even when they're facing not super good K like guys stuff, Detroit has been on a tear with the bats recently. They dropped like 11 runs in the first 5 innings against the Stros the other day when I was watching. And when Detroit's hot and their bats are feeling it, even though statistically for the season, last 30 days, last 15 days, they have very high strikeout rates. When you're feeling it, you're swinging the bat good, especially when you're at home in your own building, you're probably going to tend to keep swinging your bat good. So again, that is something I do put weight into more than just the pitchers and the hitters.
Agreed.
So then we go over here to the Cubs, at home, 28-7 to the NRFI. 80%. That's a really good stat there. 8-2 in the last 10 days. Yeah, I mean, 64% implied probability just based on team performance. We're getting just shy of 60 when we look at pitcher performance. I think that that's really good. And then when I go, so I have to pull up one more website here because the one downfall of Unabated is they don't do NRFIs, which isn't a huge deal. I just use Odds Checker. This is my primary soccer research tool, and I'll actually scale in here so you guys can see it a little bit more.
Can you try one more time just in case? I want to see if it does it mess up things for you. Yeah,
sometimes, like if I scroll in too far, it changes the layout. But if I scroll in far enough that you guys can see, it messes it up on my screen on my end, but I can see on the broadcast that you're getting what I want to see. So just hold control and scroll with your mouse wheel.
That's a really good trick.
Yeah. But anyway, we're looking at Cubs versus San Fran. I want to go first inning runs here. Over, under, we're looking at NRFI. I can see that the market has a pretty big variance in it. This is a 20-cent variance between DraftKings and BetRivers. BetRivers is kind of stingy. They like to limit me on a lot of stuff. And they're not showing me MGM and Caesars data, but I get a rough estimate of 5 sports books here. Minus 135 being bottom of the market, top of the market minus 115. 60% edge. So let me show you another thing I use here just to determine weight is we'll go to odds calculator. Action Network does a really good job at what I would call implied odds versus actual odds. So if we're looking at a 60% hit rate, fair market value of something that happens 60% of the time is minus 149.9 and a bunch of garbage. So basically minus 150 is fair market value for something that you think has an implied hit rate of 60%. So if we're getting above minus 150 here on the NRFI, I think that we have an edge based on, what it is they're telling us with the props.cash info, which correlated very nicely, 59.5, 60%. It's basically the same thing. Right. So I think all of these numbers have an edge, but I always want to bet at the top of the market, even though I'm going to be restricted here on BetRivers. My next option would be to go to FanDuel at minus 120, which is still an edge for me, in my opinion. And then I'm going to go shop these other sports books around. But I really like that look for Richard Lockhart, who is actually the guy who is still watching. I appreciate you tuning in. I'm actually going to move this up. I'm probably going to take this as a play for San Fran versus Chicago. I like that you had me take that look. I'm going to end up putting cash down on it. So
this is why we do. This is why we do what we do, man.
Yep. So great question there from Richard. I appreciate that you had me look into this because I came with only strikeout stuff because that was kind of going to be the topic of our show is strikeouts and outs and why we attack pitchers. But NRFI and FRI are two of the easiest, quickest stats for me to give you leans on. And I usually run through the entire board and it takes me about 20 minutes to cover every game and decide, do I lean yes or no run first inning? And then I go back and I start narrowing it down when I see lineups. And, the market's going to move on those. And I'm accepting that I like to bet late with more information than guys who like to bet early to try and get ahead of line movement. And I flip-flop between both. I do both. It just really depends on the day and where I'm at with how my week has gone, to be honest with you. So,
that's fair.
Different betting strategies, all are relevant, all are valid, all have good points to them, and you don't have to stick with one for an entire year or an entire season as you learn and develop this skill set.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, I think that's a good look on the NRFI there for Chicago SF, and it's in SF tonight. So Cody, I don't know if you're not seeing my comments, but I answered you twice, bro. It might just be that you're not seeing my comments, but I said that we were taking that.
I do like Webb.
But he's got it at 4.5. And what I'm trying to understand is, where are you seeing it at 4.5?
He's teasing it to put into a parlay. Cody likes to make a nice long, all day 7 to 10 leg every single game parlay. So he likes to tease the K lines.
Okay.
Which is totally legit.
Yeah.
I used to do what I would call bankroll builders, where I'd take guys for 4Ks. I would have to take 4 pitchers to get there, all juiced at minus 400. But that's definitely a strategy, because again, Ks and starting pitchers are going to be the most dependable, most consistent guys in baseball.
I mean, and I love outs. I usually find that the outs don't give you nearly the edge, because you'll get a lot more plus money bets on Ks versus outs, right? Like that's been my experience. But like I feel really comfortable, like I'm in my wheelhouse when I'm talking outs, and it's because I can use a lot of things to go, why would they or would they not pull him? I don't need him to achieve a very specific level of success. All good, Cody. I just didn't know if you saw what I was saying. I thought maybe my comments were coming through, but so either way, I think like when you consider, you don't have to get the specific stat of striking the dude out or not walking the guy. You just got to get out of the damn inning. And so like Lance Lynn outs was always a lovely play last year, because it was like, man, this dude could pitch for days, yo. So like even if
I've seen him throw 130 pitches in person before.
Especially and when he was on the White Sox, it was like pretty easy, because it was, but when he got to the Cardinals too, they were just like, Lance Lynn's coming out on a Sunday, our bullpen is tired, and he's gonna pitch 7 innings no matter the hell what. But anyway, dude, we had a pretty good stream in here. It got up to about 300 people total, I'll tell you. So like, looking some nice concurrence. Hopefully we'll have each, Oaks has the Discord. We'll have that in the link of the description. He's got that up as well. The description link is in the description of the video, I should say. I got the Discord rolling as well. I've been using Outlier a lot for MLB. I really, really like it for MLB. So if you don't have an account there, link in the description of this video also has the description of this video, for Christ's sake, has the link to Outlier, so you can get a 7-day risk-free trial, and then see if you like it or not. But either way, we'll be back. We'll each let you know as soon as we're going to be able to do another one, hoping to get, a couple a week, I think we said. So if we can get through here, we got Euros coming, right? But
I was going to say, before we get out of here, plug for tomorrow. I'll be up 8:15 a.m. We do about 20 minutes to half-hour stream before each Euros match. I have a personal thing that I'm going to have to go do, but I am going to cover at least bare minimum the first 2 Euro matches of tomorrow. So if you're into soccer, that's what I actually get paid to do a lot. I work for BetUS. I contract out my soccer handicapping skills to various other programs. And soccer is my bread and butter. That's what I do the best on. If you can't tell by the Madrid hat, the Madrid flag, or how I was freaking out during the Portugal game. So, if you like soccer, I'll be around tomorrow, 8:15 in the morning, and then again at 11:15 in the morning. Those are both Eastern time. So cool. Check me out, Twitter, YouTube. I'm findable everywhere at BurrOaks77.
Nice and early, dude. I love it. Do you have a co-host for your soccer show?
I'll find out. When people have time, they come on. So if Leg's not working, he'll be on. If Nick's not working, he'll be on. If you ever want to jump on, just feel free to let me know. Because we get lineups an hour before. So in order for me to make the graphic, I give myself a 15-minute buffer. And then we go live for about 20 to 30 minutes. And that gives you time to get your bets in. And then we wrap up the stream about 15 minutes before kickoff, finalize your bets, and then right into the game.
Dope. I love it. It's 8 a.m. Eastern tomorrow and 11 a.m. Eastern as well, since we got a couple games. If I am able to for the 11 a.m., which is 8 a.m. out here on the West Coast, and we'll make it happen. But appreciate you, brother, and appreciate everyone in the chat for sure. we'll be back here soon. We'll keep you guys posted. Next MLB stream coming pretty soon. So best of luck tonight, y'all, and talk to you guys later.
Doses.